Hello, everybody. It's Max with Crypto Talk Now. When it comes to stellar lumens specifically, a lot of times it's really hard to get good updates in regards to just them specifically, right? A lot of times the news that we bring you guys, it's collective, if you will. Maybe mentioned in the same breath of XRP and some of these other ones, XDC, so on and so forth, right? But to narrow it down specifically, it was really nice to be able to, of course, bring you something that's just XLM focused. Well, there was a nice recent update, and if anything, let's go ahead and jump right into that. So, look at this. This comes straight, of course, from the likes of Cointelegraph. And while this is, quote unquote, community driven news, it does state right here that the National Bank of Ukraine released a draft concept for digital hernia. And if you're wondering what this basically is, it's this particular thing that they got going on for the National Bank of Ukraine. And I think it's big for the likes of not just the people of Ukraine, but basically also for us people who are what? XLM holders. So it states the National Bank of Ukraine has introduced a draft concept for its central bank digital currency and a digital hryvnia or e-hryvnia. Now, of course, I may be mispronouncing that, but bear with me. And if you think about it, there's a lot that's happening when it comes to the whole thing of whether it's Stellar or even Ripple when it comes to the whole thing with CBDCs. Heck, you could even throw the likes of Quant in that conversation and so on, right? So it mentions Ukraine's central bank on November 28th released a statement on the concept of the e-hryvnia, which aims to perform all the functions of money by supplementing cash and non-cash forms of the hryvnia as its key purpose. Now, one thing I also want to mention before we get more into this is basically before the Russia-Ukraine war, Ukraine was one of the standout countries for crypto adoption, if you will. Like, for instance, here in the United States, I believe that at the time before the war, we're roughly at like 2%. I don't know if we increased by that time. And let's face it, in recent time, it's probably been a decrease, right? With everything that's happened from last summer, for instance, in May, with the collapse of UST, right? Terra Luna and so on, and especially as of recently with the whole thing with FTX, right? If anything, it doesn't seem like we're increasing, especially newcomers to crypto. But for Ukraine, they at one point before the whole thing had 12% of their population already into crypto. And if anything, while this war has been going on, it's tremendously increased since then. Why? Because the demand for paper money just simply dropped down significantly. And of course, we're going to get into this here in a bit. I'm going to share with you, of course, after we get into this, a particular piece that I did on my own before I joined up Larry here at Crypto Talk Now. And it was basically on my own on MaximusCrypto, where it says basically how crypto was saving lives, in particular the Ukraine. You're not going to want to miss that. Highly recommend staying to the end for that particular piece. Now, in regards back to this particular subject, it says the NBU said it has presented the e-hryvnia concept and continues developing the Cbdc project with participants of the virtual assets market, payment firms, and state bodies. According to the announcement, the central bank is currently considering and developing 3 possible Cbdc options depending on design and main characteristics. The first option describes the e-hryvnia for retail non-cash payments with the possible functionality of program money through smart contracts. Now think about that for a moment. Immediately I'm thinking to myself, all right, for instance, for retail non-cash payments, then I'm thinking also the smart contracts programmed. You could even throw in the likes of Quant probably helping out with something like this. Not necessarily saying it's going to happen. Even that would make sense. So it says a retail e-hryvnia would enable the implementation of targeted social payments and the reduction of government expenditures on administration. NBU said The second CBDC option envisions the eHervnia available for usage and operations related to cryptocurrency exchange, issuance, and other virtual asset operations. Quote, the eHervnia can become one of the key elements of quality infrastructure development for the virtual assets market in Ukraine, the announcement notes. Are they preparing for basically the shift, the change? What is the change? In my opinion, I think they see that this war is basically going to come to an end here, hopefully soon. I mean, realistically speaking, I mean, none of us can predict or have a, be a fortune teller and so on. But you've seen how basically, Ukraine, they're fierce fighters. They weren't a simple walk in the park like, Putin and Russia basically were hoping that, they would end up being. And if anything, by them even making some of these connections, right, with the likes of Stellar, while there's an ongoing war going on, to me, looking at it from a perspective of being a person that holds XLM, I'm even that much more, as I would say, bullish on the concept. Now, this is just basically laying out the groundwork and so on. It's a concept. These concepts could come into full fruition quicker than you think. You got to keep in mind, this particular country is in distress. And when a country's in distress, they could very well kick things into high gear, if you will, a lot quicker than a country that is in peacetime, if you will. Think about it. It does make a lot of sense. Again, it's more than just perspective. It's the livelihood of a people, right? So a little bit more in regards to this. It says the third option includes the eHervnia to enable cross-border payments in order to provide faster, cheaper, and more transparent global transactions. Quote, the development and implementation of the eHervnia can be the next step in the evolution of the payment infrastructure of Ukraine. Alexei Shaban, probably not pronounced that right, I apologize, director of NBU Payment Systems and Initiative Development Department, said in the statement, he added that a Ukrainian Cbdc could have a positive impact on ensuring economic security and strengthening the monetary sovereignty of the state, as well as sustainable economic growth. Think about that particular statement for just a moment. Does this sound like a people who are willing to accept their fate and just roll over? No. They're preparing as we speak for the future because they see the light at the end of the tunnel. And God bless them for doing that. It's amazing their drive that they have compared to, let's face it, some countries, maybe even here at home. Can you imagine if we had that type of drive, if you will? I'm not, of course, bashing on our country. I love the United States of America and so on. But, let's face it, these particular people in this particular situation, they are in a situation that nobody could possibly fathom unless they're, in the mix themselves. Of course, we know about the recent thing, for instance, with Russia and so on. A lot talks about, how they're basically, flipping the switch, as we speak, right? That basically made recent news. But it states, for instance, according to the announcement, the Ukrainian Intellectual Property Institute registered the trademark eHervnia for the MBU, of course, in, October 22, basically, roughly a month or so ago. As previously reported, the NBU has been actively studying the possibility of issuing a CBDC in recent years, hiring blockchain developers and cooperating with major industry projects like, there you go, Stellar, right? Tremendous. According to regulation, the NBU launched a pilot project to issue the eHervnia for blockchain-based retail payments back in 2018. Again, the people of Ukraine basically had the attitude, they're very, very pro crypto and so on. And, there was obviously quite a few things that put a hinder or a damper, I should say, from that happening. Hence this particular war and so on. So I definitely wanted to bring this to you guys' attention. I thought it was really worthy of a share because, this is big news, not just, of course, for the people of Ukraine, but of course for the likes of, for instance, Stellar. And while Stellar never focuses on just that, the retail investor, similar to, for instance, the likes of Ripple and XRP, it's still nice to be able to hear about what kind of developments they're doing. And these particular three concepts, I think any one of them would simply make sense. Or even if they did implement, say, for instance, two out of the three or change it up and whatnot, I think they're going to figure it out. And if anything, they're basically getting things in motion because they see the light at the end of the tunnel that better days could very well be ahead for them. And that is such an awesome thing. The next thing I basically want to show you is this, and that is this right here, where it says basically crypto is saving lives in Ukraine. I basically made this about 7 months ago when I was basically just on my own and so on MaximusCrypto. But you know, if anything, I want to go ahead and share it with you all. 6 minutes, but I think you will enjoy this, to say the least. So I'm going to go ahead and full screen this, where you can just simply hear the particular message and so on. It may even get a copyright strike because of the music that's in it, but yeah, here you go. Enjoy, and we'll do some closing comments at the end.
Hello and good evening, everyone. It's Maximus again to bring you some crypto content. And this time, it's not me trying to share about this particular token or this particular coin or anything like that. Every now and then on this channel, I like to provide educational content in regards to cryptocurrency. So a few days ago, I actually posted this really neat article provided by Bloomberg. And like you see right here, it says remarkable interview with Michael Chobanian, founder of Ukraine's largest crypto exchange. And it says, quote, "I never want to hear an American questioning its usefulness ever again," as in cryptocurrency. So let's take a look at this. So it says, what was Kyiv's crypto scene like before the invasion? And it says, it was wild. Ukraine is per capita the #1 crypto country in the world. And Kyiv was the center of it. We had probably a couple thousand developers. A lot of big companies in the crypto space had offices in Kyiv. We have big gatherings of crypto guys, such as like hackathons or just general meetups, pretty much on a weekly basis. Before COVID, there were literally thousands of people at the meetups. Ukraine is really, really big on crypto, and now it is even bigger. Now everyone knows about it. My role is to supply my people with all the necessities that they require and make sure that we can pay as fast as possible. It takes 10 minutes for a Bitcoin block to close, and it takes about 3 days to do the same through the banking system, because first we have to receive US dollars in a bank account. That's at least 1 day. On the second day, the bank makes sure that they have received the monies on the account, and then it takes another day for the SWIFT payment to actually reach whoever the supplier is. So 3 days versus 10 minutes, therefore we provide or prefer crypto. And you can understand that time is money for my country right now. So if we can save a minute, it means that we can save at least someone's life. So we are trying to speed up the process, and crypto is helping us here. The fundamental change is that before the war, there were a lot of skeptics, especially in the government, in the banks, and in the military. Now there is no skepticism because they understand that we save lives every minute with crypto. You can try to ignore it, but you cannot ignore when their families are actually fed with crypto, or when the soldiers are dressed in bulletproof vests and helmets with crypto. You cannot ignore that, especially considering that there is nothing you can do with the cash. So all the skeptics now understand that crypto is here to stay, and it's really convenient. So I guess that's the biggest fundamental change. The state of the crypto market obviously has changed a lot. Cash US dollars in Ukraine are pretty much useless. No one wants them. Prior to that, dollars were the main payment method for the OTC market. Now, considering that you can't really move cash outside of the country and you cannot store it securely, no one really wants it. Now, the most valuable form of money in Ukraine is crypto. Everyone wants crypto because this is the fastest, most flexible, easiest, and least bureaucratic way to store and spend your money. Crypto is the new king of money in Ukraine. So, with that said, try to remember some of that. You might be just talking to a fellow colleague. You might be talking to somebody at the dinner table who is not, educated on crypto. And maybe they heard some bad things, and you know how people are. Try to remember this article. It is absolutely making a huge difference in places, not just here in America, but where people are really suffering. Ukraine. Take a look at El Salvador. For crying out loud, they adopted it as their official legal tender. So, I thought that was a really cool article. If you want to actually see it in its full entirety, you can actually view it on Bloomberg, and it was published on March 31st. This is, of course, the archive version, but nonetheless, you can get it straight from the actual Bloomberg site. And with that said, thanks for watching today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. I thought it was a good read. You all have a blessed evening, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right, that was kind of vintage MaximusCrypto right there for you guys. But nonetheless, I was really glad to be able to once again share that with you. I thought, you know what, it just simply makes sense to pair that with today's particular coverage on the likes of Stellar's XLM. It's been a pleasure to bring you this particular video and the content and so on. Like, comment, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Y'all have a blessed day, everybody, and we'll see you on the next one.